Okay, we're going to go into the Q&A session now. So we have our three speakers from earlier, but also I'm inviting Ian Thompson as Vice President of Membership, under whose remit the whole of this organisation of member groups and specialist groups depends. So we can take questions. Sorry, yeah. So we can take questions on any aspect of BCS. That's the point of today. So not only on what the speakers talked about this morning, but also on any wider issues that you may have. So we've got our roving mics, and it does sound like your voices have all been warmed up now, so you all seem in good fine fettle. So let's have the first question, please. Whoa, lady.
I'm hoping we'll be allowed to have copies of the slides sent to us after the convention. Yeah. I haven't been able to write the notes down.
All right. Yes, we'll circulate the slides after the event. No, not a problem.
Okay.
What's this lady here?
I've got a question that our branch committee sent us with, which is, apart from the size of our area, we've posed two questions. What is the role of branches when there is so much activity, probably just as appropriate resulting from meetup.com? And was there a role for branches in encouraging professional development?
Ian, is that one? Could you say that first bit again? Because I didn't quite catch that first part of what you said then.
In the BCS East Anglia branch, we now cover a very large area of the east of England, much of which includes Cambridge, where there are frequent events and meetups through meetup.com, and an awful lot of activity between professionals and IT, entirely independent of any BCS involvement. So the question there was, what is the role of the branch when there's so much activity already that's just as appropriate as anything we could organise? Leading on to the proposition of, is the only thing left for the branch to encourage professional development?
East Anglia may be a large area, but my home branch is Edinburgh. I think we have a larger geographical area than you do, because we have the whole of east of Scotland from Berwick-on-Tweed up to Fife, and going across to Stirling. And we also have a flourishing community in Edinburgh University that does all sorts of things that aren't anything to do with the BCS, but that doesn't stop us in Edinburgh branch, and Paul will correct me if I get this wrong, but we have a very strong set of talks in Edinburgh and dealing with professional development. We also provide professional awareness courses, so that for people who aren't experts in agile programming, we run evenings on agile programming and to bring people up to date with topics that are not their main area. And we find that a lot of people appreciate our professional development activity. I don't know if anybody else would like to.
I'd just add that I mean, there's a lot of things that we traditionally expect from branches, but I think in the context of the new strategy, we have an opportunity to experiment and to redefine our relationship with those sorts of organisations and people getting together, because I do think that we have something to offer to people who are working in this space, because there is no other organisation, as I said earlier, with our mandate. But how do we relate to those groups of professionals? We need to experiment at this point and see what works, I think.
I might be able to offer a bit of insight here. I'm Anthony Parker from the Berkshire branch. And I think my first point is that we've treated the branch as a central repository of all the events that go on in our area. So we look around and we see all these other social groups getting together. If they're discussing IT, we pull that information into our branch website and we ensure that our members are aware of all of those. But going further to your meetup comment, we've actually set up our own meetup group. supported by our branch, which had kind of a co-promotion deal with a lot of other branches elsewhere that do IT. So we ask them to take our events and to promote them, and we actually promote the events of other meetup areas. And we've actually found this incredibly useful, that it gets about 10 to 20 extra people coming to our events each month.
Thank you, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ruby Cole from the BCS Women. Am I on?
You're on.
Speaking, okay. I'm from the BCS Women, also from Vodafone Group. Okay, I have this view that the BCS is too biased towards academia. Okay, so my question is, what are you going to do about appealing to the private sector, the public sector, to really drive up your numbers? Because I believe you've been focused too far on one side. So it's very interesting we've got a new president who's not from academia, I believe. Good.
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, go for it, Joss.
Well, actually, I agree with you. There is a clear link which we need to have to academia. There are a lot of technical specialist areas that are particularly important for the UK economy, for our ability to compete, and we need to foster those professional skills, and many of those will come from research, through invention, through to entrepreneurial work, and into companies, including the one that you work for. However, and having said that, it is really important that that is not how we are scripted as an industry. And I do believe that that is one of the reasons why we're not attracting enough women into the profession, because we're seen as a technical, geeky type of profession. We're not. And indeed, most of the people who work in the broader IT industry are not deep technologists, actually. They are people like me who are running technology departments and helping to ensure technology is effectively used, whether it's for furthering public services or whether it's, you know, creating competitive advantage. So I absolutely agree with you, and I think part of the strategy, which you saw some highlights earlier from Paul, is going to seek to address some of that and to ensure that we can address a broader church of professionals, from the digital specialists right through to the very detailed academic specialists who we need as well.
Can I just add a couple of comments on that? Completely agree that we need to do more with engaging with employers. But on the subject of women, 26% of our new members now are female. 10 years ago, it was half that, so it's improving. And different statistics, but there's about 15% of the profession in the UK are female. So it's great that we're now bringing more new members in and outpacing the total number of, as a proportion, women in the industry.
Paul, if I may, one other point that I think is quite important. We also see IT being around computing skills. And there was a question earlier on, and I can't remember who raised it, that I thought was particularly pertinent, about the fact that technology skills are required in every walk of life. They're required in every industry, in every sector, and indeed, if you move to academia, in pretty much every subject. So if you are going to be an outstanding historian and you have absolutely nil digital literacy, you're going to be struggling, because most of the modern scientific techniques that are used as a historian, an archaeologist, a geographer, right through, of course, to the SEM subjects, require you to have that ability. So we need to reach out to other sectors as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question, I think at the back there.
Yeah, thank you. This is so James McAfee, I'm on council and I just wanted to make 2 points. One of them was from the point of view of the community pillar. We've made very good use of LinkedIn, and I think I've recommended it to folks from the point of view of being able to set up communities online. It's great for having moderated discussions. You can set up closed groups if that's what you want. And we've also found it good for members to make connections with each other just by virtue of being part of that group, as well as getting great ideas for events. So I would recommend that if you don't have that use already for your groups. Now the other point I was going to make, though, it's more of a question, and it's not just for the panel, but anyone in the room that can help, is that in terms of the community side of it and how to extend our coverage, we want to be have more of national coverage, and we're looking at different webinar type platforms that we can make use of. Something
Yes, that's a common question. We've got a work thread going on within the Best Practice Committee at the moment of finding suitable packages and costing them and trying to keep the cost down and the various things we can use. And then the platforms on which we can actually then distribute that once they've been recorded and edited. We've got Colin and a guy called Jonathan working on this at the moment, and we should have the results of that during the course of this year on that. So that's my input to this, but I'm sure there are people all over the place who are using various technologies. Yes.
I want to put in another plug. How many people here have heard of the BCS Appathon? Not enough, not enough. You need to Google it. The 13th of June, Appathon, the BCS are sponsoring throughout the country events where families can come and develop apps for a mobile phone, the Android phone. So this is a BCS. Oh, of course the Android is a real phone. And the point is that we want to not break a record in the Guinness Book of Records, but make a record for the greatest number of people developing apps on the same day in the UK. So
Okay.
look
Okay, well,
it
thank
up
you.
and support it through your branches. If you want to have an appathon, get in touch with BCS Women and we'll be happy to help you. And again, the resources for this are open source, so you can run a workshop for developing apps for a mobile phone in your branch at any time using them.
Okay, thank you. I thought you were going to respond directly to the question that was asked. Has anybody got any information first for... Yes, Margaret.
With the Margaret Ross, a question about the webinars. If you have a look with the Green IT, we've been regularly running webinars, and it's free. There's no cost at all. So, and we're picking up people coming in 7 days people attending the webathons. And again, the question actually came about the different grades. If you look at on the volunteer portal, events in a box. There's a ready-made presentation there explaining about the different grades, different types of the charter status and how you do it. The PowerPoints are there, all the script is there. So if anybody wants to use it wherever, we're in the worldwide, it's there. It's just sitting there ready to be pulled down. The point I actually just wanted to add was actually to Joss, which was actually very much about the apprenticeship one. Some of the things that we came up with, and can the BCS help us, we felt that there was a need to actually run some meetings, probably through branches, targeted at potential employers, the large ones, the SMEs, and even the micro ones, so they understand not why it's a good idea, but the mechanics of it, how much, what's the legal position, etc. Also, we thought there ought to be a similar sort of presentation, almost like an event in the box that we'd like to have, so everybody can pull it down and use it. That actually says, well, you know, you're thinking about an apprenticeship if you're young or if you're unemployed, if you're a woman on a career break, if you're actually more mature and you actually want to change a profession. So we might even need 4 variants of this, explaining again from the potential apprenticeship person, you know, what is it involved? Where am I going to get grants of money? What sort of salary? What's my commitment? What's the possibility of a job afterwards? Is there anything that we can actually generate from the BCS to help us do this, and do you think it's a good idea? Thank you.
Yes, I do think it's a good idea. There is a lot of material out there already from government and from industry about apprenticeships and technology apprenticeships, but I think what we can do is help to draw that together and to provide a front door through the BCS as to how you can get the information, how you can make an application, how you can get on the ladder, if you like to do that. And I do think the local branches have a real part to play in this. The success will come, as you rightly point out, Margaret, from the way in which we work with the industry, with companies who are thinking perhaps about employing an apprentice but don't quite know how to go about it. They don't quite know what the benefit will bring, what the liabilities for them might be. And getting some discussion with local technology companies through the branches, I think, would be very, very valuable. It will, of course, also address one of the points that was raised earlier on, and that is how does the BCS work more closely with local industry in order to get our brand better recognised and in order to drive more corporate sponsorship of individual BCS members. Because I think in the future, that is going to be a really important part of what we do. And I know, you know, David and Adam are doing a lot of work on that.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm sorry, that's the end of the question now because we've run out of time now. But thank you very much for your questions. And can we thank the panel as well for their responses? Thank you. Okay, we're coming on to the Mornington Crescent now of the conventions, the speed networking. So we've got 3 questions for you today to discuss in your groups. They're all relevant to the topic of today. So what are your initial reactions to the presentations this morning? What do you think is the best way for BCS to move forward with the new strategy? And one from Joss on how can we create more IT apprenticeships with BCS memberships across the UK. You'll be given 15 minutes to discuss each of these questions, and there will be if you like, a leader who will come around and take notes on that. So it's basically a brainstorming session for those of you who have not been involved before. Now, it does need a little bit of organisation. So on the reverse of your badge, there's a number. With those numbers 1 to 3, there are 2 floors upstairs in the Oxford suite. And there are tables there already laid out, ready to go up there. For those of you who need a lift to go up those stairs, there's a lift just down the corridor here. Those numbers 4 to 8, they are in here, and somewhere on the tables there are numbers. I think I can see a 5 there. And we want the 10 people to gather round there. Thanks, Roger. Yeah, so the idea is then, if you break up now, if you go up there, you'll be kept strictly to time by the timekeepers, and you'll be marshalled through the questions by the people responsible for each table. And then you really must try to be back down here, though, for 12:30, so we can go on with the next speaker. Thank you.